Hey everybody, it's Stephanie OWGamer along with Sixsevsairis, and welcome to the new podcast, The Pixel Mini. A podcast where we don't discuss news anymore. Instead, we're going to discuss different topics, different games, different things we want to talk about, I guess, in relation to games and video gameage and stuffs like that. And I will have different guests, I'm sure, throughout the times that I'm doing this. Scott will be making appearances from time to time. Steve will be around often as well. And yeah, who knows who else we may have on the program. But anyways, this is, I guess, the first Pixel Mini, and we've got a topic that's pretty dear to me, which is Final Fantasy VI, or as it's known over here, is Final Fantasy III in North America. And I can't speak for Steve, but I played this game a lot growing up. One of my friends first brought it home. He came here to St. John's, actually, and bought it when he was staying here in the summertime. And he brought it back, and it was the first time I've seen it since I remember watching my uncle play it, and I never got a chance to play it at that time because it belongs to my friend, only 3 save files, so it was pretty crappy that I couldn't play it. But when he finally came back with it, I was like, oh my god, we are going to play the crap out of this. And did we ever? We played it so much, in fact, that he actually gave me the copy of Final Fantasy VI and allowed me to keep it for myself. So I still have it in my collection. I know, it was pretty awesome.
That's crazy.
But
good times with games, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we were always like that kind of thing. But there was a lot of things that were left open for discussion, such as, you know, one thing that we always wanted, and one thing that we always heard when the internet was first kind of around, was that, hey, you can get General Leo. And apparently there is a way to technically get General Leo, but it involves playing for a copious amount of time, like hours and hours, like 12 plus hours at a time, without saving as well.
What? Why without saving? I gotta
Because
ask.
apparently, whatever happens is that whenever you get to a certain point in the game, I think it's when you first meet or get General Leo as part of your party, and you die, it's a game over or whatever that you get. And when it resets, it kind of glitches and puts Leo into your party somehow, and I think it replaces someone maybe. So I'm not exactly, and that could be bullshit because I've never tried the glitch myself. But anyways, so of course, we played the crap out of this game so much to the point of where, you know, we started thinking like, you know, are they ever going to do a sequel to this? Because after Final Fantasy VI, it was years before Final Fantasy VII came out, and that was on PlayStation, on the PlayStation, whereas the Final Fantasy VI was on Super Nintendo. So it was quite a few years before the next one came out, and we always discussed to ourselves like, hey, like if they ever made, you know, Final Fantasy VII, do you think it's going to follow after Final Fantasy VI and, you know, or Final Fantasy III? Because at the time, again, we didn't know that 3 was actually 6. So it was just interesting kind of talking about, you know, what they could do as a sequel for the game. So I'm not sure, but I guess if you have any memories of the game, you're more than welcome to share them with us.
That's what I was going to do. And my situation is a little more unique. I kind of side there because I've only gotten to play this game with other people 2 times, and most of the time I did everything, and I had to look it all up online. Mm-hmm. So there was very little exploring and a lot of beating the crap out of the game.
Yeah.
I've been all the way up to Kefka. Like, I've finished everything in his castle, but I haven't beaten Kefka. It's the same thing I did with Final Fantasy VII. It's just, I feel like I had such an unfair advantage that I feel so bad about beating the game.
But that's the whole point.
Of course.
You want to slaughter Kefka.
That's why we're going to, in the Caffeine Co-Commentaries, you, I, and Blind Man's World are going to beat the game together. Of course, I'm going to be the one playing, but having other people there is really what's going to give me the fun I want out of the game. I don't just want to beat the shit out of it. You could do that anytime.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's my situation with the game, and that's where I'm at with it. I know a lot about it. I don't know what happens after the end of the game.
Mm-hmm. Well, technically there's a couple of different endings just depending on what you did, like whether or not you save Shadow, that kind of thing.
Right.
whether or not you save Sid, if you find Gogo, if you get Umaro, that kind of thing. But I mean, for the most part, it's generally the same ending. It's not Chrono Trigger by any means, where you can go back and say, oh, well, I'll do this, and that way we'll get a completely different end. No.
I saved everybody.
Oh, yeah. And I'm pretty sure there's a quote-unquote good and bad ending, but I'm pretty sure I always got the good ending just because, again, it is my favorite game.
Oh, of course.
So I mean that's why I have so much love for it, but and that's why I played so much of it, I guess. But yeah, there was a lot of different things that could have happened, or that could spawn another game, I guess, as such, or a sequel to it.
Yeah. Before we get to that, I do have one question for stats' sake.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever gotten all of and I forget his name. It's the kid who lives on his own in the wild. I feel so bad, right?
Yes, I've gotten all of his rages, except for I think there's a couple that you technically can't get.
Yeah,
I think it's 3 or 4 slots in there that I think you technically can't get at all. But,
that makes sense because he's not around those monsters, I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to ask because that can go to tell someone how much you played this game if they've done so themselves.
Well, I mean, I've played the game so much that I've found, I think it was at least a dozen different glitches in the game and getting different things.
Wow.
One of the blue magics that you can get for Strago is Quasar, and you can only get them from dark forces.
Mm-hmm.
Well, depending on who you take in your party, including Gao and Strago, you can glitch the game in Zozo in a way that Gao gets a bunch of different rages that he didn't have before. It fools up the entire list for that battle alone.
Yeah.
And basically, basically what happens is that you can use these new rages that he didn't have before.
Wow.
And they do different powers, more or less, such as Quasar. That's how I originally learned Quasar. Was through the glitch, which is kind of funny, because when I seen that, I was like, what the hell is this? And I was like, Quasar, I haven't found it. Because, again, this was before the internet was, as big as it is now, where everyone shares every single tip, secret, trick, whatever they can find on the internet. Before, it was a lot of it was bullshit, more or less. I mean, you went looking for something. I mean, the whole General Leo thing, that was all bullshit. But I mean, if you wanted to, I mean, you could get Quasar from the Dark Forces, but usually you didn't stick around for them long enough because they do things such as, level 5 Doom and level 3 Confuse and Muddle is Confused, and level 4 Flare and all that stuff. So I mean, usually you kind of tried to wipe them out pretty quickly, but that's how I found Quasar, was through actually glitching the game.
That's really cool. I mean, I had no idea there were glitches in the game even. Like I said, I've played the high-end runs all the time because I got my ass kicked once.
Now, as far as I know, the only way to do the glitches are on the original Super Nintendo carts. You can't do them on an emulator, I'm pretty sure.
That makes sense.
I'm fairly positive they removed that feature of being able to sketch people or invisible enemies in the advanced versions and stuff like that. So
that'd be something to research later and maybe put in an annotation, or I will comment in, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in depth at another time, I think. So we were talking about a sequel. I kind of derailed that. I'm gonna put it back on track here. So what do you think would be a good idea for some things in the sequel, or just the overall sequel, if you've got the whole idea? Well,
here's the thing. Emperor Gestahl wasn't 100% killed. If you play the game, yes, Kefka zapped him. Yes, Kefka kicked him off the island. But Kefka and the Emperor more or less had the same type of magic power.
Yeah.
So even if Kefka, managed to hit him and kick him off the thing, what's to say that, he doesn't have the magic to live through the fall, or that he can't somehow, brace his fall? Maybe he casts float on himself. Maybe he has life 3 already casted on himself, so that when he hits the ground and dies, a little angel comes down and goes, "Hey, get up, little buddy," and he's all like, "Yes." And, for all we know, he could just wait for the opportune moment to gather back his magic and stuff. Maybe he gets, shattered remnants of Kefka or the god statues or something like that to increase his power again. So,
here's another idea. Maybe he had an Esper on him, and he summoned the Esper, and the Esper saved him.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. There's, Gestal wasn't 100% killed.
No, he wasn't. He might have been unconscious, but he would have certainly woken up before hitting the ground. But one of your ideas there, I do want to point out, sounds a lot like Final Fantasy 1, in that the final boss is the first boss you fight, and there's the time mechanics in that game that are quite interesting. You could kind of see that going along with some of the original ideas of Final Fantasy.
Yeah, and if we go through I have a lot of different notes here on different people and different things that we can more or less go into here. So, even looking at Terra herself, at the end she's technically turned into a human, but she still has Esper blood. She's still half Esper. So technically, some way, somehow, I believe that she should still be able to use magic one way or another. Yes, she might not be able to morph anymore and turn into a full-on Esper kind of thing, Super Saiyan pink, but, I can't see why she can't use magic. That's the same thing as Strago, for that matter. Strago is one of the original Magi.
This is also very true. He should still have some magic left in him, but I don't doubt at some point he would kill himself using more magic. But he could still be productive for a time.
Think of all the people in Thamasa. When they went and visited there, they were saying, "No, we don't know what magic is. What's that?" But everyone in the village actually knew and could use magic. That being said, you pretty much have a full village of magic users that didn't rely on Espers at the time. So technically, that was passed down through generation to generation. So these people already have magic with them, so they don't need any help, more or less, getting magic back or having to use Espers. So technically, magic should still be in the world, even for that reason alone. So again, that's 3 different, sources of magic. The mass itself, the Esper world is probably still kicking around somewhere. There's probably a way to get back to that. That would be a 4th, technically. Emperor Gestal can still be alive, and again, Terra is part Esper. So, there's more than enough ways to have magic still left in the world.
And if theory holds right, all the characters who survived also had magic by that time from their use of Espers. So you'd think that everybody could use magic, and there would still be very much going on in the way of power struggles.
And just getting outside of magic, there's even spin-off sequels they could do. Locke alone, he's a treasure hunter. Before all this happened, he was a treasure hunter. We had the story of Rachel. They could show the story of how he met Rachel, some journeys or quests that he went on, some different types of magic items that he found. Maybe he's encountered an Esper before but didn't know it was an Esper. There could be a ton of different things with that alone. And not only that, but him and Celeste, more or less, will be getting married or get married or stay together once the game is. Again, spoiler alerts for any. If you think that this is not going to have spoiler alerts and you haven't played the game before, then sorry, but it's going
That's
to.
all right. If in the comments you have a problem, you can tell us, but we're sorry.
Yeah.
You kind of signed up for it, but you can complain. You're allowed. It's really interesting that you say that they stay together, because that could also, it makes for a great game in and of itself. You could have several spin-offs just with Locke. It's crazy. But you still have more ideas.
Oh, God, yes. Well, I more or less sat down and wrote down topics of different people and different things that I guess could happen in a sequel or whatever. If Sid was kept alive, like you could do in the game.
Yeah.
The dude looked after Vector. He made these big mechanical crane arms. He's, made all the Magitech armor, and he was the one who figured out how to infuse magic using espers. Why can't he work with Setzer to make a bigger, better airship or airships, such as a fleet or something? And not only that, but I mean, there's also Figaro. The castle itself was, made out of machinery and had steampunk type things to it. And with all those forces combined, they could, bring about an airship-filled world and kind of bring it into a new era kind of thing where people rely on airships a little bit more.
That makes an awful lot of sense. There's a lot of tech still lying around. I didn't even consider that. But that did lay into one of my ideas, actually. It's a perfect segue, because my thought was, say you didn't happen to do particular things that would affect this. I don't remember exactly which ideas, but say you did have an advanced air fleet. Well, what's after that? Maybe trips to other planets or to their moon and terraforming stuff. Or
you're starting to think of Final Fantasy IV now, see?
Yeah.
Going to the moon.
But the idea is still really relevant because a lot of Earth is ravaged. A lot of it's desert. It's going to take a long time to fix that. If you're ever going to fix the population problem, of course, that might be looking at it from too much of a Civ 5 angle, but if you're going to sustain the world, you have to sustain the people in the world. And
a little too much Civ 5, Steve.
Anyway, I thought it was an interesting idea. You wouldn't be doing the terraforming, but it would be a reason for them to revisit the whole world, and you could kind of see the state of things after everything was over.
Yeah. See more mountain ranges, maybe. More green lands, more forests again. And speaking of Setzer, actually, Setzer's a gambler. Why can't Setzer open up a casino?
Right next to the Coliseum?
More or less. I mean, why not? why doesn't he work with the Coliseum so that he can start, taking bets on who's going to win matches?
Exactly.
It sounds like it would be something right up Setzer's alley anyways, right? So, I mean, between that and the airships, I mean, damn, dude could make a ton of money.
Yeah, that's true. So I had an idea for a particular mechanic myself, and this is on the premise that espers aren't all gone. And they wouldn't be. So there would be a battle mechanic. Of course, there would be battle mechanics, but this would be an idea for a unique one as far as I'm concerned. Espers having a max level of, say, 10, so they get experience in battle as well. Okay. So they give you different abilities. Like, so say the first level is HP plus 5%, the second level is HP plus 10%. So, like, you'd get the abilities like you normally would, but they would level up and get stronger and help you more.
Well, I mean, they kind of had that.
Levels.
They kind of had that in there anyways. If you leveled up with a certain Esper, you would get a certain amount of, like, extra attack power or more defense, depending on which Esper you had equipped. So, I mean, technically what... anyone who's looking to buff their players up maximum would take the time to always check on each battle and say, okay, well, I got this much experience left to get, and I got this much right now, so I know that if I battle one more time, I'm going to level up, so now I'm going to have to switch Espers so that I can, when I do level up, I'll get this extra stat added on. So they kind of had that sort of thing in there, but I know what you mean. It's more or less instead of saying...
another level to that mechanic.
Yes, like say when the Esper reaches level 5, then instead of attack power plus 1, you get attack power plus 2, and then when it reaches level 10, attack power plus 3 as a maximum, which would be great then. I mean, you'd be able to have some sick characters then as well.
Yeah.
So...
yeah. And it would be interesting, you could have the battle system bigger or smaller based on that, but I think smaller would be better for a sequel in this case. So, the numbers are 999 instead of 9,099. 900. I said it wrong. Oh well. But that was mostly all of my ideas. I've only got one left, so I'm gonna let you get back into yours after this one.
And again, this is just different things that I thought about to add into a sequel. Another thing is that, well, Shadow could easily come back into his daughter's life realm. He could either, quit being a ninja, or he could go back to being a treasure hunter. Perhaps he knew Locke before he was Shadow. Because if Barham was a treasure hunter like Locke, then I mean they could have easily crossed paths at one point in time or another. So he could go back to that lifestyle, or there's a good chance that Realm could always take up the same thing as Shadow and perhaps become a ninja like he does.
Yeah.
I mean, why not? Following in her father's footsteps, I guess, kind of thing. So.
Exactly.
And the other thing is, well, they could live with Strago because, I mean, although he's the adoptive grandfather of Realm, I mean, obviously he has some sort of bond. I mean, why would they just go to a random old dude and just be like, hey, can you look after my daughter because I'm dying or I'm going out to be a ninja? Like, I'm sure Strago wouldn't just say, oh, okay, sure, that's what I want.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, there's obviously got to be some sort of...
almost familial bond. Not rivalry.
Sorry, and that was. I don't know if that was a motorcycle. It's like it's February, not June.
Yeah, I know, not time for motorcycles, guys. Come on.
But anyways, So I mean, there's a lot of different ways they could go with the whole Shadow Realm, Strago bit. Edgar, I think Edgar could easily become the new leader of the world that they live in. Bring the Empire's troubled towns back into new light, help them get back on their feet. Instead of having Vector, having Figaro as the center of the world's empire. And because I mean, he seemed, for the most part, Edgar didn't seem like he was a bad king by any means. Yes, he was a womanizer, but I mean, other than that. He was pretty
very
cool.
good at being a king.
And I mean, his castle can burrow underground.
Yeah.
That's badass. I'm sorry, but that is king status right there. It's like, yeah, come and attack me. Because if you do, I'm just going to move my castle. And then when you come close, I'm going to move my castle again. You and your troops are going to get tired, and you're soon going to be like, okay, we're going to lose this war because everyone's too tired trying to get to the goddamn castle. So... I think Edgar is a smart dude. I think he'd be a great leader of the New World.
Yeah.
And well, of course, then you also have Sabin, his brother. He could easily become a teacher himself and teach others to become martial artists. Or he could also go on a quest to go and find his own teacher as well. I'm trying to think of his name now. Duncan, there you go.
Yes, Duncan.
Whatever happened to Duncan? I mean, he timed a bum rush and then took off into the sunset, but I mean, I'm sure Sabin could probably learn something else from him. Maybe Duncan has another, blitz that he could teach him that's very dangerous, that's more, powerful than the bum rush. Although, come on, 99 damage. I mean, come on.
I know. I could see there being a different storyline there that goes with that, and that would be that Duncan is trying to tell him, Sabin, you need to continue the teachings. You need to take a disciple.
Yeah, I can see him doing that.
Because whether Sabin wants to admit it or not, his fighting helped end Kefka's control over the world. Mm-hmm. That fighting style has proven to be necessary for the survival of the planet.
Indeed, and that's what I was saying. Like, if he became a teacher himself and taught others to become martial artists, that could be what his role is in the, I guess, sequel.
Yeah. I had one idea for Terra as well, and because there's a Terra storyline, I thought, well, she still has Esper in her blood, so she could be, really upset about being one of the last living Espers still, of course. I mean, continuing that from the original game. It's a very interesting thing that she goes through throughout the game, because she always felt different, even at the very beginning when she starts remembering things and being aware.
Yeah. But, I mean, I guess she was under the Empire's control that long. I mean, ever since she was a baby, which it's weird that they had to use a slave crown on her at the start of the game, considering if she was with the Empire, since she was, you know, able to remember anything, then technically she should have went along with the Empire regardless without having to use a slave crown. But, I mean, the other thing is that perhaps it was the whole fact that, I don't know, maybe she felt in herself that she didn't want to kill people. You know, she didn't want to go and set everyone on fire. She was happy with just helping the Empire in other ways, but maybe that's why they use a slave crown. I don't know, but they don't really explain that enough.
You know, that would be a nice idea for a sequel, is telling the story of how Terra's wearing the slave crown at the beginning of the game.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they could always do a prequel to this game even. There's a lot of stuff that they could talk about. Again, like I said,
a prequel, my bad, sorry.
About like how Locke loses Rachel, how Strago comes to becomes Realm's adoptive grandfather, why Shadow becomes Shadow, you know, or Baron becomes Shadow, whatever you want to call him. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that they talk about, briefly touch on, like you know, how Gao made it out in the wild on his own. I mean, I'm sure some type of creature had to take him in and, you know, look after him for a certain amount of time until he became, you know, strong enough to, you know, look after himself, kind of thing. So there's just so many unexplained things, and that's what I'm saying. Like, they can do a prequel, they could do a sequel. There's so many ways that they could do something else this game, and it'd be just so worth it.
Hey, Square Enix, are you listening? We're doing your work for you here.
I doubt
copyright the podcasts. We'll share the rights. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm not propositioning anybody.
But we were talking before about magic in the world, and I also mentioned Strago being a magi. Well, Strago used blue magic. This magic is a type of magic used by creatures, which it's different. You know, instead of using people or espers, he could help bring magic out in the world again and teach people to hone the skills of monsters that inhabit the world, and almost be like a Pokemon type thing, except you learn the Pokemon's moves for yourself, and you're like, see you later, buddy. So
that's exactly what that's like. Yes.
I mean, not only that, but Gao could do the same type of thing. He could be more functional as a person instead of a beast like young adult. He could use his skills and attacks used by monsters and creatures, same type of thing as Strago, and could teach people to fight and discover new skills that way. So, I mean, there's different ways of keeping fighting skills and magic type skills in the Final Fantasy universe without technically having to have the espers there.
Without even having to have a source of strife.
And I mean, even though their espers, all of them were more or less eradicated from the world when magic was quote-unquote destroyed, for all we know, there could be espers. I mean, the world itself and the world of balance, there was no Doom Train, there was no Fumbaba. Like, none of those were around. They were all locked away. How do we know that there aren't espers locked away? Maybe there are bad espers that they had to, you know, protect the world from and kept them locked away. Maybe the Empire had some espers in different vats that were, you know, more secure. Or maybe they had them in a more secure area, period, you know, just more or less locked away. So, again, there's other ways that espers could still resurface into the world.
Yep. Well, and I would think like a prototype laboratory. Like Sid's got his mass production laboratory, and then he's got his playhouse.
Whoa.
The most fun projects he could work on. You know what I mean.
In like a private area type thing?
Yeah, like in a secret, unknown location.
Well, you heard it first. Steve has a sex dungeon.
That's not true at all. It's not even on topic. Why would you? Why?
I guess getting back to the game, one thing that they never really talked too much about was Zozo.
How did Zozo even end up like that? That's the first question.
Exactly. Why did they become a town of thieves and murderers? and liars. And was it ever a prosperous town? Can it become a prosperous town again? Maybe they eliminate all the thieves and stuff that live there. There's a lot of different things kind of surrounding Zozo, in my opinion, because why were the Espers drawn to Zozo to begin with? Like, why was Rama and Siren and Stray, and like there was a third, Bismarck.
Yeah.
Why were all of those drawn to? Was it Bismarck?
I think it was Bismarck with the CK at the end.
Yeah, no, I know that it was an Esper, but I'm not sure if he was one of the first 4 that you find. That more or less, like, that's why Terra was drawn to her, as far as I know. Like, are there any secrets about Zozo that we don't know about? I mean, not only that, there was the mountain where Cyan wrote and sent his letters from that had to be accessed to one of the buildings in Zozo.
Exactly.
Like,
there's so much going on there.
A lot. The chainsaw. Why was there a chainsaw there? That, you know, is pretty much the best tool in the game. You can get it super early in game, and it's so good. It does one-hit kills.
Yeah, it does, but it's also one of the most disturbing weapons you could use because it's a chainsaw.
But hey, Edgar's the tool master, so, and again, see, there you go. Now you can get other characters in the world that could use chainsaws. Maybe even make one of those Final Fantasy Tactics games as a sequel for this. I mean, it's true though. I mean, why not? They had so many unique different powers and abilities in this game, like blitzes and stuff like that. That's awesome, and that probably inspired some of the different jobs that they had in some of the Tactics games. So
definitely.
Another person that wasn't really explained too much was Gogo. Could we find out who he or she is and where they came from?
I do know of an origin story of Gogo. I don't know if it's necessarily
Are you gonna?
true.
I'm not sure if you're gonna say who I think you're gonna say, but proceed.
She was Daryl.
That's what I've heard as well.
There's no proof to this because Gogo is so mysterious, and I think Square Enix likes this particular bit of story the way it is. So we're probably never going to find the truth. But it's very likely that she's Daryl. That's my best bet.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, there's a bunch of different ways they could look at that. Because Gogo wasn't around in the world of Balance, but he or she was there in the world of Ruin. So were they always there in Triangle Island? Because if you go to Triangle Island in the world of Balance, that's where you fight the Intangir.
And that's the way you get in there. There's a
there's another one. When you go to the world of Ruin, the Zone Eater.
Zone Eater.
That's the thing that sucks you into. Intangir is what you find in the world of Balance, and it uses a very strong spell called Meteor.
Yeah.
Which is supposed to be the strongest spell in the world in Final Fantasy IV.
Yep.
But yeah, it uses Meteor, and when you kill it, you get 10 magic points or AP points or whatever it's called. And basically, you know, it was a great place to farm up your spells and stuff. So, but there was no mention or nothing around about Gogo. So obviously, within that 1 year of being there on Triangle Island, Gogo somehow made a lair for himself, or maybe he always had there. I'm not sure. See,
there's so many ways that story can go. It's frustrating. So a game on Gogo or a story of Gogo in a game would be fun.
Yeah. Just to know a little bit more.
Yeah. What about Umaro? That's another character.
Well, yeah, I mean, Magna Moogles could themselves become a more profound race as they have in other Final Fantasy games, such as Tactics series. Because, I mean, Mogs are a prevalent race, like Bangas, the Numu, or Numo, and Vieras. So, not only that, but yeah, Umaro, where did he come from, and are there any more of his race wandering the world? Because he seems to, like, maybe he has a debt to Mog or something, but he seems to listen to Mog, so I don't know if the Moogles, like, at the end, they kind of show, like, this little thing there where, like, Umaro is kind of controlled by the Moogles. That's what it's kind of hinting towards. So if that's the case, that again, like, is he unique? And if so, then how is he unique? How did he come to be? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make sense for there just to be.
And why is he teased at the beginning of the game like that? I mean, even just his origin story is a little unusual. You know, when you're going to the Esper mines in Narsh, or Narshi, or whatever you like to call it, he's always just a little bit ahead of you, and it's weird.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah, like, there's times that when you first play the game in Narsh that you see him come out a couple times, like, through one of the rock faces, and you're like, whoa, who's that? And you never really get to see who he is. That's, you know. So, another thing that I was thinking is that, I mean, for all we know, the reason why he's controlled by the Moogles is maybe he is a Moogle. Maybe he's a, you know, weird genetic mutation strain of, you know, the Moogle race that, you know, he wasn't too smart, but he was much larger and maybe had less hair on his face and hands. You know, it could be anything, even though he's, I know, supposed to be an abominable snowman, Yeti type guy thing, or whatever you want to call it, but yeah, I don't know, there's a lot that they could do with that. Another character, Cyan, he was from the kingdom of Doma.
Totally wiped out.
Totally wiped
After his
out.
poison attack.
But the castle is still there and intact. And
True.
he could easily rebuild and resurrect that kingdom and work together with Edgar in a union, as opposed to, you know, being against the Empire, or, you know, because it seemed like he was a very honorable person. So I think, again, that would work out well, again, with Edgar being, you know, the cool kind of dude that he is.
Exactly.
And maybe he could teach Cyan how to be, you know, better with the ladies.
Oh, God. I don't know if Cyan would ever be able to marry.
Maybe not.
He had some stuff happen to him, especially with those nightmares. He's gonna have some very extreme leftover traumatic problems, which would probably be played out as well.
I could see him trying to get over that, though, by going back there and, you know, living through it more or less, and still being proud to be from Doma and being a Doma, you know, warrior himself. So
he's actually a samurai.
Yes.
According to Final Fantasy record keepers as well, which kind of tripped me out, because you don't see samurai wearing that type of heavy armor. I mean, like, traditionally they wear something much more.
If you've seen the clothing that he wore in any of the pictures or in the manual and stuff like that, he was actually depicted almost having like a almost like a navy overcoat type thing. It's, I don't know, it's kind of weird to, it's not what you'd normally see a samurai in, more or less, right? So I mean, yeah, it's I don't know, he's a different type of samurai, that's for sure. And maybe that's the whole thing. Maybe instead of worrying about this more padded armor, he likes to go for something a little lighter, easier to wear, or, you know, and not only that, but I mean, in the game, he can technically wear whatever the hell he wants, but I mean, technically that makes sense for anyone in a game. You should be able to wear whatever armor you want. Just because you know, are an archer doesn't mean that you can't wear heavy armor. It just means that you'll be, you won't be as good an archer in the heavy armor. That's all that means. It doesn't mean that you can't wear it. It's not like your arms just say, nope, not going in. No!
That's very true.
Not going in the coat. Get out of here!
But so that leads to the question, should they be allowed to gain affinity with it? And should that be tracked? I mean, you're going to get better with
then you're
something
getting into
if you
mechanics
use it.
of an actual game. I'm more or less worried more about a story.
Right. Well, that's part of a sequel. Are you just going to pretend there's no battle mechanics and it's a whole story sequel? So you want a movie. I didn't know that.
No. No matter what game you're playing, Steve, it's a story.
That's true.
Doesn't matter what mechanics are in it. Doesn't matter if it's a point and click. Doesn't matter if it's a platforming game. They have to have some sort of story to it. So without a story, you're basically a stick man running.
This is very true. I wasn't trying to say stories are any less valid. I'm just
that's what I'm saying. What I'm trying to say is that
valid.
The mechanics of the game, yes, they are important. They're important to any game. It's Final Fantasy. If you went and said, okay, well, we'll do a sequel, but there won't be any battles at all, then that would kind of defeat the whole purpose of it being a Final Fantasy game. Then it's just a one of those novel things that people sometimes like.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about like just the general story of where they could go within the game. The thing that drew me to Final Fantasy VI to begin with was the story, not because I was playing an RPG.
I like it for both reasons, but the story
I'm not
is
saying
better.
you can
No,
like it for whatever reason you like. I'm just saying, like, for myself, I was more about the story of the game than I ever was about the actual gameplay, because the gameplay became very much in the background eventually.
That's true. I can understand that point of view, yeah.
Because, I mean, yes, you can go through the fancy things of, oh, well, I'm going to cast Quick, and then I'm going to do 2 Ultimas, and then I'm going to use someone with an offering and a Genji glove, and hit the character 8 or 16 times, or whatever the hell it is. I think
16,
yeah. So, I mean, yeah, no, I already know that stuff, so if I want to do it, I'll just set it up and do it, but after it's set up, I'm not worrying anymore. I'm just like, okay, can this battle be over so I can get to the next part? I want to get more story, or, I want to, you're not just like, oh, okay, great, now Quick is up, so that means I'm all quick and stuff, and now I'm going to do an Ultima. Oh, God, it was so much damage. I'm going to do another one. Like, no, I didn't really care.
That's alright. The story, like I said, is better. That's definitely me, though. The guy who's like, oh yeah, get that Ultima in there. Okay, now cast it 50 more times this turn. Jesus. No, that's not enough. 20 more on top of that. No, I need 5 more even.
But anyways, getting back, I guess, to the whole thing for Final Fantasy VI. Another thing that they kind of pushed out of the world of Ruin was the Ghost Train and the Ghost Forest, which to me makes no sense.
Where did that go?
Well, yeah, because after the world changed, surely there's still a train guiding souls where they need to go.
Yep.
If that was the mechanic of the religion of, dead people, their souls are carried off to, purgatory or whatever until they're ready to be sorted by a train. If that's the case, then you can't really destroy that train, Kefka.
Yeah.
So, what happened to it?
Could he have banished it to another dimension if he can't destroy it?
True. I mean, he could have used an X zone or something.
Yeah. It's like, well, I can't kill you, but you're leaving.
Which is the evilest way, actually, to kill Kefka in the end of the game. Don't use X zone. Don't be a dick to somebody else in a different universe. And send Kefka over there, and then he's all like, Magic Power's here, man! Great, I don't have any of those douchebags chasing after me. I'm gonna rule this world. Universe and kill everyone.
Wow, that's a way I had never considered that before.
Yeah.
It's a good thing I've never fought Kefka. I don't have to have that guilt on my conscience.
I mean, it's fine vanishing him and then, dooming him. At least then you know he's going straight to hell.
Yeah. Yeah, he is doomed at that point. It's kind of funny that bosses in that game have weaknesses to status effects like that. You'd think that would be a thing.
That was something that they didn't really take into account. It was that... Because, basically you can cast Vanish on anything in the game and then cast Doom or X-Zone and instant kill them.
Yep.
So, it was just something that I'm pretty sure they took that out of the game as well later on, so...
I don't know about that. I have the PlayStation version at least, and it's not out of that. You can still abuse the hell out of the game there. Yeah.
I haven't played that one at all, really, because, I had the Super Nintendo version.
It's the same thing. It's just a different controller. It's really semantics. Oh no, I said words.
So, I guess going back to some more different things from the game, whatever happened to Bannon? Whatever happened to Arvis? These two were pretty much in the game for a small amount. Arvis was the one who kind of took Tara into his house while Locke got there and, helped her escape. And he was one of the returners as well, the head returner, I guess, for Narshe. Mm-hmm. And we never hear of Iris ever again. Was he annihilated in Narshe? I don't know. What about Bannon? I mean, I know that the returners, sure, some of them were killed, but weren't they a group of mercenaries, more or less? I mean, basically. Some of them must have survived. If you're a trained mercenary and the Empire's after you and you guys scatter, I'm sure some of you are going to live.
Almost guaranteed. Because they had been running and fighting from a highly advanced force for a while. Exactly. Clearly they were outmatched and they needed something like magic to even the playing field.
Well, I mean, Bannon could just sit there and heal you all day long.
I know.
So,
he just needed someone to hit things and he could just... I'll keep you going, just kill that thing for me.
Plus, they had the great escape plan. The Leet River was right there. It's like, okay, see you guys later. I'm jumping on this raft. Zoom! And just, take off. And, I don't know.
Oh, the Leet River. That is forever one of my most
1337, the Leet River.
I hate that place. I don't know about anybody else, but I could see that being in a sequel. The story leads you through Leet. Hey, guys, remember this place? It's still bad.
Yeah. But, I mean, they had that as an escape plan there, so, I mean, why couldn't anybody else escape?
That's true. You get there and you do the same thing.
So I'm almost done on my topics. I've only got a couple more left here. One more is something that they very, very briefly touched on in the game. And they only made a brief mention of it so you can get this one Esper. The Ancient Castle. There was a small amount of story saying how the queen used her magic to turn herself to stone and cast out all the enemies or whatever. And then you had Raiden, who you could turn into... Or no, was it Odin that turned into Raiden? Raiden turned into Odin. I think Raiden turned into Odin.
Okay, one of the two.
Yeah, either way. So, I mean, there's obviously a story there. We were talking about a prequel. That could easily be in a prequel as to showing who they were. Because if they were fighting as, one of these ancient magi type places, then, I mean, yeah, they could easily put them into a prequel. But in a sequel, why can't the ancient castle be dug up and used, or perhaps even studied, shown the story of the battle of what happened, the years before? Mm-hmm. Or not only that, but you find the ancient castle with Figaro Castle. So if you resurrect this other castle, hey, I have a castle, says Edgar. Sabin, how about you take the ancient castle? We will give it the burrowing feature as well.
Yep.
And then we could do that. And then, hey, let's go over and high-five fucking Cyan. And we'll be like, hey, you want your castle to burrow underground? He's probably going to be like, I don't like machines. And he's like, dude, we're going to have a dude that pulls the lever for you, okay? Just calm your tits.
You don't have to play with the machines. We have a guy who does that for you.
Yes, you'll have an alarm. People will go into their little hatches and seal them off, and everything will be fine. The kids are out playing, well, they're dumb.
But that does present a very interesting situation because I'm sure not all the monsters in the world are destroyed. Exactly. And having those highly defensible mobile solutions for people, not just one person, not just the party, but swaths of the population. You could literally rebuild the world over a long period of time if you had something like that.
Well, not only that, but if creatures such as Doomgaze, Doomtrain, and Fumbaba were released into the world, who knows what else is out there? There weren't really any water things to do in the world of Ruin. So, that being the case, maybe there's a huge water-type creature that you have to deal with. At some point in time, that was kind of locked away type of thing. There's a lot of different features. Yeah, why not?
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense because Leviathan appears in other worlds.
Yeah, Final Fantasy VIII.
Final Fantasy 4/2,
yes,
whichever one you played. It's a recurring theme in the series, so it belongs.
So, depending on the circumstances, how things go with, Gestalt, with Strago, with whoever, for all we know, the Second World War of the Magi could start. Depending how things, are done or whatever. So, and that's pretty much my last topic was, if that happened, the War of the Magi, I mean, different things could happen due to that. Maybe people who are left with magic are chastised because most of the magic in the world is pretty much eradicated. So you have one faction who can use magic and one faction that does not use magic. So, I mean, then you have to worry about that, and then does it break any of the people from the original Final Fantasy VI group up so that they take sides or they fight each other or something? No one knows, because, I mean, again, there is no sequel. So, another War of the Magi could happen, and, I mean, for all we know, it could be something that there are two sides, and unknowingly, one side is being controlled by Gestalt. It's happened in other types of stories before where, someone they thought was dead was actually controlling things from behind the scenes until he gathered up enough power to, make his move kind of thing. So,
yep.
So there we go.
There's so many different ways you could do things with this game. Like Final Fantasy VII has prequels, sequels, and a movie. This is another game that deserves the same treatment. I think we've made a strong argument for this case.
It's just that it was released so early in the gaming days that it didn't get the same running as Final Fantasy VII, because Final Fantasy VII was looked at as like, whoa, this is like the first RPG to a lot of people, because they didn't know before that hey, there's a reason there's a 7 in front of that after Final Fantasy. There were other games before. You should check them out at least. And I'm not saying that all the games are like
amazing
like 6 is by any means. Because the first one I found was good, but none of the Final Fantasy games that I've played so far have been bad by any means. But the first one I found was very long and very drawn out. A lot of grinding.
Yeah.
Whereas with 6, there was ways that you could set up a turbo controller to make you go around the Elite Falls over and over until you leveled up. So that's what I did. I did that in my own Let's Play of it, actually.
Yeah, I don't know how to do any of that. I've done all that stuff by hand, and that's another thing why the battles became background for you and why they became forefront for me.
No, I didn't always do that, though.
Well, of course, you didn't do that to bosses, I assume.
Well, no, basically, when I first started playing the game, I never did that because, I wanted to be, as original as possible without, abusing something even though it's in the game. Right. And then eventually, when I just wanted to start seeing, okay, well, now I want to get all of Gao's rages, and I want to make it easier for myself, and now I want to go and get all of Strago's things, and I want to do these glitches, and I want to, see how different things work out. Yeah. And, at that point, that's when you actually say, okay, well, I'm going to take my turbo controller, I'm going to put a rubber band on it, I'm going to leave it on all night, I'm going to take off the RF thing on the back of the TV, and I'm going to watch cable until I go to bed, and then I'm going to go to school, and when I come home the next day, I'm going to have, between level 50 and 70, depending on when you turn it off, or, stop playing it and let it do its thing. Yeah. You're going to come home to a level 50 to 70 party. Now, the only thing that's bad is that Locke, for some reason, is the only one that's left down at, level 10 or 11 or something for most of the game.
Yeah.
Or not most of the game, but, until you get to, the Empire and Vector or something like that, and then he finally catches up kind of thing. But, cool little things happen, when you first get Celeste, she might have Pearl, or she might have Ice 3, and that's a big thing, because, back then it's okay, well, I have to use an Ice Rod to try and kill something, but now it's just no, I'm just going to use Ice 3, boom! And, you can one-hit kill stuff, which is fun and all, but, I mostly did that just for doing my own research on the game, what can I do, what can I find, that sort of thing. So let's get past the World of Balance type thing, and let's get to the World of Ruin. Mm-hmm. So, one thing that a lot of people find really hard to do, beat Chupon at the Coliseum.
Yes.
And if he doesn't sneeze, you can somehow beat him, yes. it's very hard to get Chupin not to sneeze. It's very RNG. So you just gotta really hope.
What are the chances of him sneezing exactly?
I don't even know what the percentages are for. But
if you had to guess, would it be like 90% or something?
I would say
I fought Chupin a lot, and it's the same fucking result every time. Excuse me for swearing, anyone who wasn't looking for a swear on a podcast, but it's very, very evil.
Yeah,
Chupin is. It's disturbing.
But I mean, there are ways of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it can be done. It's just you got to get really lucky, kind of thing. So.
Oh, of course.
But yeah. So that is the podcast about Final Fantasy VI. Maybe we made mistakes. Maybe we didn't. Maybe you have some thoughts on some of those topics. Maybe you don't. I don't know. You leave it down below. You let us know. If there's any other topics you'd like to hear us talk about, let us know as well. I think the next podcast we're going to be doing is what we'd like to see in the next Animal Crossing game. Me and Steve don't play it as much as most people play it, like people who are huge fans, but we both do like the game. We both like the mechanics. I don't know about Steve himself, but I enjoy playing the game almost to more or less completion. Like finding all the bugs and paying off your house and getting all the fish and etc. etc. So
I haven't gotten that far into it, but that's just me. I do enjoy the mechanics, though, as Stefan said, and I'm looking forward to the podcast. I've got some things to talk about, so I guess that's it for me. I'm going to give it all back to the man upstairs here. Yes, he's upstairs for me on the map.
Kinda, I guess, yeah.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
Oh, no problem. It was great having you. So, as always, thank you all for listening in, and I guess we'll see you all next time for another podcast, another Pixel Mini. See you later.